Chapter 43 Do You Hate Me? So Wan Ci's original emotions were still relatively stable. Until she heard that sentence, the calmness in her eyes was instantly shattered, and traces of hatred emerged from the depths. She coldly sneered, "Indeed, first, you personally weave a beautiful dream for me, and then ruthlessly shatter everything, pushing me further into the abyss. Isn't that you, Mr. Fu?" Seemingly stimulated by the hatred in her tone, Fu Jingzhou pinched her wrist, stared into her eyes, and gritted his teeth as he asked, word by word, "So Wan Ci, do you hate me? It was your parents who killed my father. So Ci, do you have the right to hate me?" So Wan Ci abruptly shook off his hand. Her exquisite face was covered in frost. In her dazzling star-like eyes, there was now only coldness and disgust. "Fu Jingzhou, if you approached me for revenge, fine. But why didn't you tell me everything 8 years ago when you appeared by my side? Why didn't you just tell me the truth?" A hint of mist appeared in her eyes but was quickly suppressed. So Wan Ci continued, "Fu Jingzhou, 8 years ago, I had nothing. I was in so much pain that I wished for death. Why didn't you take your revenge back then and relieve the hatred in your heart? Why did you have to lie to me for so many years? Why did you wait until I fell in love with you to personally expose everything?" In her final sentence, she almost roared. The emotions So Wan Ci had suppressed for so long finally erupted at this moment. The hatred and disgust on her face were like thorns that stung Fu Jingzhou's eyes. Especially her words "I love you" stirred up an emotional surge deep within him. This complex feeling was reminiscent of the day he trapped her in Starlit Bay 2 weeks ago. At that time, So Wan Ci had been waiting for him to explain, forcing herself to see the truth. She was desperately trying to understand why all of this had happened. She had gone mad trying to comprehend him. But now, in just these short 2 weeks, when she saw this expression on him again, So Wan Ci realized that the emotions she once had no longer existed within her. This feeling was called indifference. This feeling was called not caring. She didn't want to understand him anymore. She didn't want to hear his explanations anymore. If he had told her from the beginning that he was seeking revenge, So Wan Ci would never have resented him. She wouldn't hold him responsible for the grudges of the previous generation. He said her parents owed him a life. If that was true, she was willing to repay that life. But she couldn't accept that he had schemed and deceived her for a full 8 years. She couldn't accept that he had treated her like a fool and manipulated her. For 8 years, she considered him her everything, her last source of comfort and dependence in this world. And now he shattered all the disguises, ripping away all of So Wan Ci's trust and warmth. She no longer believed anyone. She didn't dare to trust anyone anymore. She was afraid of encountering another Fu Jingzhou. So Fu Jingzhou would never know that the wounds he inflicted on So Wan Ci were far from being as simple as they appeared on the surface. Deeper wounds festered within the depths of her heart. To this day, they were still raw and festering, bleeding endlessly. It was precisely because of this unbearable despair that 2 weeks ago, So Wan Ci had risked everything to escape from Fu Jingzhou's captivity. However, Fu Jingzhou now would never understand any of this. Just as he looked at the stubborn and enduring young woman before him and felt the sting of thorns standing upright, he, too, would do anything, even if it meant hurting himself all over, just to hurt her back. He wanted to completely control her, to keep her forever locked in the palm of his hand. However, So Wan Ci was determined to escape even if it meant being broken to pieces. The narrow staircase suddenly became eerily quiet. Not far away, around another corner, Cheng Yizhou held his phone, remaining silent. After a while, suppressing all emotions, Wan Ci's eyes returned to their calm state. She stepped past Fu Jingzhou, standing at the stairwell and with her back to him. Fu Jingzhou, what you should be doing now is not trying to control me again, but telling me the truth from back then. Fu Jingzhou's palm loosened and then clenched again. The corners of his lips almost formed a straight line. Divorce him, and I'll tell you everything. Wan Ci sneered mockingly, lifting her step to leave. As she walked away, Fu Jingzhou's voice echoed in synchronization, Xiao Ci, have you fallen in love with him? The woman's voice was cold, this is my business. You have no right to interfere. Saying that, she went straight to room 308. Before Fu Jingzhou turned the corner of the staircase, Cheng Yizhou swiftly moved, sneaking into his own office. After closing the door, he let out a long breath. Oh, I have to say, Luu, between your wife and Fu Jingzhou. He looked at the screen of his phone, but his words hadn't finished when Luu directly hung up the video call. Looking at the words call ended on the screen, Cheng Yizhou was almost driven to swear. He had gone to such lengths as a little spy, even lowering himself from a dean to a mere doctor just to relay messages to Luu. But that surname Lu just couldn't be bothered to say a simple thank you. He didn't even give him a chance to finish a sentence. Noon, 11:20. Luu appeared at Hualien Hospital. 2 knocks on the door woke up Wan Ci, who had her eyes closed, leaning over her desk. She looked up to see Luu, lazily walking in with a lunchbox. Didn't you say you weren't coming today? Her expression had already returned to normal. She even spoke without any abnormality in her tone. If it weren't for Cheng Yizhou's video call, he would have never seen any fluctuations in her emotions. Placing the lunchbox on the table, Luu picked his lips. Mrs. Lu toiled for over 5 hours last night. As her husband, it's only natural for me to take care of my darlings 3 meals a day. While talking, he walked over to Wan Ci's side of the desk. Placing a hand on the table, he leaned in close, and the other hand lightly caressed the corner of her eye. Wan Ci hadn't expected him to make such a move. His action was as if he were wiping away tears for her. Subconsciously, Wan Ci leaned away. What are you doing? Luu's hand followed, his fingertips once again brushing against the corner of her eye. He closely observed her eyes, his deep pupils swirling with shadows. Did my baby cry a lot last night? Your eyes are a little red. Wan Ci's gaze flickered. She avoided his hand that was still touching the corner of her eye. Looking to the side, she casually replied, I slept late last night, so I'm tired. Luu brought over a chair from the side, placing it next to Wan Ci's chair. Sitting down, he suddenly reached out, grabbed her wrist, and gently pulled her onto his lap. He held her like he was holding a child. Wan Ci struggled slightly, wanting to push him off. Luu, stop fooling around. We're in a hospital. Anyone could come in at any time. No, they won't. With one arm around her waist, Luu used his other hand to tuck away the strands of hair by her ear. Cheng Yizhou is in charge outside.